Deepwokens obscure world events, many occurring actively, some occurring yearly, and others only occurring once in all of Deepwokens history. Today I'll be covering the various important events within Deepwoken and the lore that surrounds them, so all of you can understand them on a deeper level. Make sure to subscribe, since only about 20% of the people watching right now are actually subscribed. And also I'm live on Twitch playing the new and final Dispatch episode, so come watch me live on Twitch right now after I'm uploading this video. And of course, you know, it's a Telltale game, so if you're afraid of spoilers, watch me anyway, because you could just make different choices from me, and it's a different game. Anyway, let's get straight into it. Starting with Hallowtide, only because it is currently ongoing. Hallowtide is a yearly event with an inconsistent rough schedule in which it occurs in late October and extends into November, usually ending by the mid to late days in November. Every year there are 3 weapons, however so far we haven't gotten through to the light weapon in game yet, which is possible to come in week 3 of Hallowtide. Hallowtide is a gift from the heavens brought to the people of Lumen by the Spellheart family, a family of Lightborn who are former citizens of the lost city of Constellia. Now, for those of you who don't know, Constellia is the city in the sky seen through a telescope which was lost by the Lightborn in a raid from the drowned god Etheron, who used brainwashed Kyr's people to take over the city, causing hundreds of Lightborn to be killed and those who remain to flee, including the Spellheart family, who now live in their floating keep and come down to spread Hallowtide joy once a year with no real reason behind Hallowtide existing as it is. It's really just a fun little event that the Spellhearts thought of and put a little game behind with all the masks and spreading joy and stuff like that, because they want to spread joy as they have lost a lot of what they enjoyed being Constellia. Now, most of the lore in relation to Hallowtide is actually lore brought up through Mikhail Spellheart, who is the resident cook and also the youngest of the Spellhearts, or at least likely to be the youngest of the Spellhearts, but most of it is Lightborn related lore. So some of his important dialogue goes as follows. When asked about servants, he says, "The keep was once very well manned, before the fall of Constellia." When asked about Galpin, the oldest looking of the Spellhearts, he says, "He's one of the oldest among our kin. Generations of your kind came and went in the blink of his eye." Then when asked about Lysander, who is seemingly younger than Galpin, he states that Lysander is actually around his age, if not older. "I suppose it's natural to your kind, but for us Lightborn, the passage of time isn't really a concern. We don't age quite like your lot do, but Galpin, well." Lysander says that something weighs heavy on the heart and the soul of one of our kind, their appearance changes to reflect their feelings. This really just tells us that for whatever reason, Galpin feels much older than he really is, or well, technically he just feels older, because normally they feel youthful, and maybe he's lost a lot of time, and it's likely due to the falling of Constellia and being reminiscent of the times of when they actually lived in Constellia, their home and city. Other than that, there isn't too much going on with Hallowtide itself, with it mostly containing lore about the Lightborns and the Spellheart family, with Hallowtide really just being a funny little event that they throw together and make weapons for every year and stuff like that to just bring around to people. There also doesn't seem to be lore surrounding the creation of like the referential items, like the Rogue Lineage ones, because I mean, it wouldn't really make sense for there to be, but also the Rogue Lineage weapons and items really aren't that fantastical, so it's kind of just like a coincidence that we ended up getting stuff like the familiar Necromancer's robes that also just happen to be practical clothing, and they resemble the stuff that's done in Rogue Lineage. Next up is the Interluminary Interloper event, aka the Parasol, which is named because it looks like a parasol umbrella. The Interluminary Parasol is a seemingly non-sentient jellyfish reminiscent creature, and it essentially acts as a sort of cross-pollinator for monsters from the depths, allowing them to reach the overworld where they can then further reproduce. This confirms that all of the monsters down in the depths do not naturally spawn in the overworld and are all completely invasive species which make their way through the lumen through the parasol. Now, the parasol has no known origin, but the creature itself doesn't seem to be sentient, rather just acting on stimulus, as it has minimal response to player intervention until it is finally killed. It was likely just created by one of the drowned gods, probably Yunshul, to spread the influence of the depths, since Yunshul is generally considered the drowned god of the depths and has the most influence down within the first layer, even though technically Yunshul isn't in the first layer of the depths because, you know, weird god Lovecraftian magic stuff, but you get the point. It's weird ethereal god stuff. Yunshul probably created the parasol to spread his influence. It's not a he because it's a god, they don't have genders, but you get the point that I'm trying to make here. Yunshul makes the parasol and it spreads the influence of the depths by just bringing monsters up to Lumen until, you know, one day everything could be drowned and the whole world could be depths, and then Yunshul's at his most powerful. The next world event is the Doom of Carenthil, aka the World Serpent, which is likely to be getting reworked soon. The Doom of Carenthil is named such as it destroyed inhabited the entirety of a large island within the southern Luminant by the name of Carenthil, which was inhabited by cities of people not so dissimilar to Etris or other islands that we see people living on. Now, for whatever reason, the Doom of Carenthil gives ardor to people who defeat it, which means it is potentially an evolved version of the Dread Serpents, but this isn't confirmed. The World Serpent does, however, not have any known or confirmed origin, so this is all just speculation based on the fact that it gives ardor, and the only two things in-game that give ardor are the Dread Serpents and the Doom of Carenthil, which means it could be an evolution of it of some sort, or maybe an amalgamation of souls instead of just one soul, because normally the Dread Serpents are made by one soul going through a whole lot of dread, or at least that's how the first one was born, which then opened the gates for more to be reborn. So it's possible that the Doom of Carenthil being larger could be a bunch of souls feeling the same amount of extreme dread all at once, shape-shifting, merging together, and then maybe becoming something like the World Serpent. This isn't guaranteed though, this is just my own theory on what it could be, based on the fact that it kind of just looks similar to the Dread Serpents, and this thing is called the World Serpent, so they're both serpents, you know, you got the Dread Serpent, the World Serpent. Who knows? After that, we have the Carnival of Hearts, the final of 3 world events added within the World Events update. The Carnival of Hearts is a carnival event hosted by Alita the Trickster and Tillian, who is her twin brother, who is only ever seen throughout the Carnival of Hearts and not anywhere else in Lumen within the game so far. Tillian is an albino Canor, which is the explanation for his light skin color, and both him and Alita are vision shapers. Tillian has no real lore, but Alita on the other hand does. The lore is that she's bisexual. That's really it. It doesn't really matter, but you know, that's the first thing they said about her instead of giving her some actual story. No, I'm joking. She does have lore, but it's surprisingly not too detailed as far as the lore goes, but since she's a vision shaper along with her brother, that does mean that they both belong to the Nest Mine, which ensures that one day, unlike most Deepwoken NPCs, they will die due to the decay of time. The reasoning for this is the fact that the Nest Mine, which is the entity the oaths of the vision shaper are made to, feed on the mind of the user until one day they'll eventually be too mentally weakened to continue fighting, at which point the Nest Mine will assimilate them completely and likely turn them into a Deep Owl. So while Deepwoken's people are functionally immortal, kind of like lobsters that can live hundreds of years, the Nest Mine will take you long before then. If you want to learn more about this, then go watch my Oath lore video, because this really isn't the place for me to go into extreme details involving that. But the Nest Mine is technically, you know, one of the malicious Oath Masters in the game, and Vision Shaper is probably one of the only few Oaths in the game that, you know, damages you over time and will kill you if you make it. From here we have the Etris Siege World Event. This event starts out at the docks where the Central Authority soldiers will begin to pile in, raiding Etris, and then they'll advance from the docks up to Etris through the Etris Wilds, and then eventually make it to the city of Etris. As they are in the game right now, they are guaranteed to lose, with the Etrians fending them off during the event and winning every time. However, in the future, the developer said that there would be an alternate ending to this event in which the Authority wins, but for now there isn't that possibility. This event is the first in a long period of potential battles and wars that have been occurring between the Central Authority and Etrian Luminant and Etris for hundreds of years at this point. The Lord Regent is the big divider which causes the Etrians to be unassimilated by the Central Authority right now, because his power over the island while he sits in the magical throne is all that's really fending off the Authority's stronger forces, which is also the only thing keeping the Lord Regent alive, as he would have been assassinated by the Maestro Evangard Rest if it meant he had a way to continue fighting off the Central Authority properly, but without the Lord Regent, he really can't do that. Now this will all builds up to what will likely be some sort of Central Authority versus Etris war arc that will likely come out whenever the Central Luminant is released, and it might even come up pretty soon, seeing as how we're going to be getting the Lord Regent boss fight with the Vow of Iron, which is going to be pretty interesting, and this is kind of spoilery, but yeah, the Vow of Iron is going to be just like classes, and you'll be playing as lore characters and stuff like that, which is just some stuff that got leaked. So you're basically just going to be either spawning in as certain lore characters and people who are in certain things. Like one of the things that I saw specifically was being a member of the Circle at Fort Merritt, which the Circle of Honor is something that's talked about in the game that we'll be finally seeing in the Vow of Iron. A little bit spoilery, but you get the point. So this could be leading up to stuff in the Vow of Iron, which is very interesting to see. Now, the final world event I wanted to cover was an event that only happened once in history, the Great Sharko Rumbling of 1291. The entire lore edition of the Sharko Rumbling is an Attack on Titan reference. Now, the event itself happened because at one point in the game they introduced an item called the Megalodont Bait, which would just spawn Megalodons or Sharkos on you. The problem with this was that there was no cooldown, and they could be crafted with items bought in the fishing shop for notes. So people spawned thousands of Sharkos all over the Etris docks and Etris, as well as other places, requiring the game to undergo one of, if not its only and very few, emergency update patches because it was such a bad issue. Afterwards, they would, you know, give people double chests, and the lore around it is that while the cities were destroyed and people were killed, all the loot from double chests, which was technically in lore just all the loot that the Sharkos dropped, allowed them to make money and rebuild their cities and prosper better than ever. Now this all ended up becoming a lore edition, with one account of the history on it being stated as so: Winter 1291 marks that fateful night when the rumbling of 1,000,000 megalodons thundered in our ears. They laid waste to our homes and what little lands we had left to squabble over. But in the strange and inscrutable ways of the deep, an age of plenty soon followed. So soon after a fall, our people were once again prospering. Now, the bait in lore was created because fishermen wanted to increase the haul of megalodons due to both the large size of them, providing lots of food and hide, and that's just profit, as well as their tendency to carry valuable treasures. However, they did not expect the bait to be nearly as effective as it was, resulting in the metaphorical wave of Sharkos flooding various islands and cities, most notably being Etris and the Etrian docks. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. That's all the lore that we're covering today. I initially wanted to make a Hallowtide lore video, but then I realized there's barely any lore to Hallowtide, and all the lore that Hallowtide gives us is literally just on the Lightborns and the Spellheart family. So instead I just decided to cover lore following like world events here, which, you know how that is. I enjoyed making this video. I actually like making the lore videos. People keep asking me for more suggestions of ban appeal videos. I'm gonna be completely honest, I hate editing those videos. I don't mind making them, and I think they're fun initially, but editing those like Discord videos, it just sucks. So I'll try and get some out for you guys pretty soon. But with that being said as well, go down the comment section and description below, click the Google form, and submit 1 or 2 images. You guys only get 1 build. If you submit more than 1 build, I will not rank them. Submit 1 build to the drip submission form. 1 build per person per event. I'll be streaming it later this month, okay? Anyway, hope you all enjoyed. Shoutouts to YouTube members of Tier 2 or higher: Green, Brick, Goobka, Highcard, Philip, Axelor, Fun Guns, Simply Mo, Elstern, Flying Noodle 559, Carlia, Vicori, and Drizzy Drake Fan. I love you all. Have an amazing day as usual, and goodbye.